Today, I'll be ranking every card in the new season of Merge Tactics. Starting in dead last to no one's surprise is the Barbarian. Now, the Barbarian just doesn't really have a lot of HP. He also doesn't have a lot of damage. So he's just sort of like an average card who doesn't really have any good single purpose. And the only reason you'd use him is for the clan trait. Next up is the Firecracker. Now, honestly, this might be kind of a hot take, but I feel like the Firecracker is sort of a worse version of the Archer. I think if we compare the damage, she has a lot of less damage, and it's just not really worth it for her ability, which doesn't really trigger that often. The Force trait as well just isn't very good. One spot above the Firecracker is the Archer. The Archer just has a lot more DPS, and the clan trait, in my opinion, is just better than the Force trait. Next up is the Knight. Now, this honestly also might be a hot take, but I just feel like the Knight isn't as valuable as he used to be. Like, yeah, he's a pretty good trace, like stats-wise. He has a lot of HP. He's a good tank. But I just feel like if you're running Noble, you're just gonna sit the Knight out, because usually if you're going 4 to 6 Noble, you'd use the other 4 because they're better. And you'd only really use the Knight if you're going 6 out of 6 Nobles, because he doesn't have any trait other than Noble now. Alright, I know I said I have a lot of hot takes, but this might be the hottest take of the video. I feel like the Boss Bandit is just kind of garbage. She's 5 Elixir, and her ability just isn't very good. And her stats as well are just the worst. Like, if we scale up to a 3-star, her 3-star has 1800 HP. For perspective, the Knight has 1300 at 1 star. So yeah, I feel like the Boss Bandit is just so underwhelming. I think she needs a stats boost, and if they boost her HP, she'll be a pretty decent card. Next up, we have the Royal Ghost. Also just a very underwhelming card. I mean, the Royal Ghost always kind of sucked. His stats aren't too good. Usually his invis comes right after you need it. But the reason you'd use him is for the undead trait. So his trait is really good. He's just not very good individually. In 28th is the Magic Archer. And a trend you'll see a lot is just that the Force troops are just not very good in my opinion. Like, the Magic Archer just kind of seems like a worse executioner. He has less damage. His ability is just not even that good. And the Force trait just kind of sucks. Next up is the Bandit. I think the Bandit is decent individually. Just sort of a mid card. I mean, the ability is like, you know, obviously pretty good, but the Bandit just isn't as good without her old traits. Like, she used to have Ace, you know, Assassin was very good as well. Now she has Force, which just isn't very good in my opinion, so therefore she's just kind of low. And like, the invis from the Force trait can help in a lot of cases, but I just feel like if you're spending 4 Elixir, there are much better options. Next up is the Bomber. I think the Bomber is so underrated. He has the Undead trait, which is the best trait in the game in my opinion, excluding Boss. His stats are pretty good as well, but the main thing that I like about him is that he's only 2 Elixir, his damage is good, and he has splash damage, so he's just such an early game like splash damage range unit. Next up, we have the Goblin. Now, the Goblin individually just sucks as a card. His HP is ridiculously low, but the Goblin trait is amazing, so therefore I do have to put him, you know, a bit higher on the list. Next up is the Spear Goblin for the exact same reasoning. Goblin trait is good, but individually he just kind of sucks, but I think he's a bit better than the Goblin. And same logic with the Dark Goblin. Goblin trait's good, he's just a bit better than the other Goblins. Alright, next up is the Prince. Now we're getting into the middle of the pack cards, the decent cards. I think Prince is decent. You know, his stats are like average in my opinion. His lance mechanic is good, so I think Prince is an okay card. Holy fall off from the Executioner. The Executioner dropped a lot in my opinion because of a single change, and that is because of his trait, Force. I just don't think it really suits him very well. He used to have the Ace trait where he would just literally heal with every shot, do crazy damage. I still think he's okay because of that ability where he pierces through and comes back. So, like, don't get me wrong, he's not like a bad card, but I just think he fell off a lot because of the trait. The Archer Queen, I think, is struggling a lot because she lost her Superstar trait now. I mean, again, don't get me wrong, the Queen is still like a decent card. You know, the ability is pretty good. I just don't think she's like very oppressive anymore, especially because she costs a whole 5 Elixir. Because she lost a Superstar trait, which she would just go like bam, 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 bam with the ability. Now she only does 1 ability at a time, which really just isn't that threatening. All right, now we have our very first locked card. So one of the 9 cards that are orb locked, and that is the Royal Giant. I feel like the Royal Giant, like, yes, he's locked behind orb, but I just don't really feel like he's the best card. Like, he's okay. He's like sort of an average card. His stats are okay. He gets decent damage, good hit points, pretty good individual card, but I just don't really feel like he's as good as any of the other orb locked cards. And next up is the Giant, his brother. I just think the Giant suffers a lot from losing his Superstar trait, because he used to just be able to like fling all of his opponents across the board. Now his ability, like, he's still good. Like, the ability is good. Like, you can fling a troop, but he just doesn't do it as often, so he's not as oppressive, which is why I think he's a bit better than the Royal Giant. Alright, so the Witch actually just got a pretty big nerf, so I actually think the Witch is bad individually because her skeletons just get popped so fast. her stats aren't even like insanely good or anything like that. So I don't think the witch is actually good individually, but the witch is pretty good in my opinion just because of the trait. So she's not good individually, but the trait is what carries her, and the witch also just synergizes extremely well with the Tomb Queen. All right, next up is the Musketeer. So now we're getting into like the decent cards. The Musketeer, her stats are like okay. Her ability is what's good in my opinion. She knocks back and stuns a troop. I think that's pretty good. It's not like the best ability in the game, but it's always solid, it's always consistent, and you can always just rely on it. All right, I kind of just glazed there, but next up is the Valkyrie. The Valkyrie, same sort of thing. She's just consistent. Like she's one of the best tanks in the game in my opinion, and she's just such a good early game troop as well. All right, so Goblin Demolisher feels a lot stronger this season. I forgot to look in the patch notes. Maybe they like reworked him, but his explosion is just, it just feels way more impressive this season. And of course the Goblin trade did get improved as well, now at the 6 out of 6. So I just think he's a very good troop. You know, he can consistently sneak into their backline and go boom and just get like a kill or two. So I think he's really good, especially in the early game. All right, so the Wizard is now 4 elixir instead of 2. The Wizard is pretty good in my opinion. This might be a slightly hot take because I feel like the clan troops are all kind of mid. But I feel like the Wizard's like sort of like a weaker princess. Like he's good in my opinion because he has splash damage, his stats were buffed, and that's why the Wizard is a decent card. All right, next up is the Goblin Machine. The Goblin Machine, not really much to say. His stats are like average. He's a goblin, which is good. His ability is still very good. And because he lost the superstar trait, like obviously he got worse, but I feel like he wasn't punished as much as the other cards because his ability affects multiple troops. So you can still get consistent damage with him. And now we have the Princess. The Princess was always so solid. She still is very solid. Noble, the second best trait in my opinion. She also has really good splash damage in the backline. So you can easily just kill off their backline troops so easily. And for that reason, I think Princess is one of the best like cards you can unlock normally. The Giant Skeleton is also just a super solid card. 3 elixir. And if you level him up to 2 or 3 stars, he can do a lot of damage. His radius gets way larger, so he can affect like all of their troops, at least like half their team. And he has the Undead trait, which is like the best trait in the game, and he can scale up, his stats scale up throughout the entire game as well. So for that reason, the Giant Skeleton is just such a good card right now. And to close off the Undeads, we have the Skeleton King. This also might be a hot take, but I feel like the Skeleton King is the best Undead because he is just tanky. He's a very good tank. He does good damage, good pierce. You can spawn skeletons with it to help the Tomb Queen. And the fact, what makes him really good now is that now that his stats scale up with the Undead, he can just get so much more tankier, he can do so much more damage, and he just gets so much more impact in the late stage of the game. Like, this guy is just untouchable once he gets his HP and his damage just scaled up from the Undead trait. The Goblin Cage is just such a consistent troop. I mean, he's such a good tank, because you have the cage you need to bust through first, and then you have this like beefy Goblin Brawler that you need to deal with. So the Goblin Cage is just one of the best tanks in the entire game for that reason, and he does have the Goblin trait, so you can go crazy with the Goblin Queen. You can get 6 out of 6 goblins with any ruler, so he's just so good for those 2 reasons. Next up is the Baby Dragon. Honestly, maybe the Baby Dragon's a bit high on this list, but I just think the Baby Dragon's good because he also did just get a buff, and he has really good splash damage, probably the best splash damage in the entire game. The one thing holding him back though is the Forest trait, but I think it's not too bad because he can get bonus hit speed with the Forest trait and go crazy with that. So I just think the Baby Dragon is a super consistently good card. All right, now we have the Mega Knight to start off the boss troops. Now I think the Mega Knight's the worst boss troop because he's just not like insane individually, but I think the reason I'm putting all the boss troops high up on the list is just because every time you get a single boss troop, it literally comes with the boss trait activated. Like you get like plus 50% HP. So the boss troop literally comes with the trait. So even if the card is like mid individually, it just becomes OP because you just get the trait by default. All right, the next boss troop is the P.E.K.K.A. Similar logic with the Mega Knight, but I mean, this guy is just a bit better individually in my opinion. So for that reason, I'm putting him higher on the list. At 4th place, and the highest card you can unlock normally is the Golden Knight. I think the Golden Knight is just carrying the cards you can unlock normally right now because if you get a kill, boom, 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 dash, 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 right? And I feel like there's a lot of like squishy cards now that they've added. So I think the Golden Knight just always gets good value and he can take out and dash the backline against a lot of troops. All right, starting out the top 3, we have the Mini P.E.K.K.A. The Mini P.E.K.K.A. is just so busted. I mean, do I really have to say more? His ability literally permanently levels up a card for the rest of the game. Like, that is actually beyond broken, but the one thing that's holding him back is that this guy just this little guy just struggles a little bit to get kills sometimes because he's so squishy. But other than that, his ability just busted. All right, next up in the number 2 spot, we have Skeleton Dragons. Now, I was kind of debating whether the Skeleton Dragons or the Mini P.E.K.K.A was better, but I think I will put the Skeleton Dragons at number 2 because his ability is just a bit more broken than the Mini P.E.K.K.As. What he does is he absorbs a large portion of the HP and damage of the surrounding units. So there's crazy screenshots like on the Discord and Reddit of like people getting like Skeleton Dragons with 70,000 HP. It's like, yeah, you're not beating that. Like, that's ridiculously broken. So for that reason, he's an obvious number 2, maybe even a number 1, arguably. But coming at the number 1 spot, we have the Monk. Now look, the Monk was already ridiculously broken individually, right? But what did they have to do? 2 things. Number 1, they gave him the boss trait. So now on spawn, he instantly gets the boss trait. So he gets infinitely more tankier, which means he can reflect way more damage. Number 2, they made him orb exclusive. So now if you get a 3-star monk, you can just scoop up 4 more monks in the shop, guaranteed without getting blocked, pretty much, unless someone else gets a monk. I don't think that can happen though. But you basically get a guaranteed 4-star monk most of the time, which if you get that is game over. So the monk is just so broken. There's no card that can beat him. And that is my ranking for the 34 cards currently in Merge Tactics. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, agree or disagree. And remember to like and sub, do all that, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.